There isn't, I believe, hotel in the world that doesn't have the goal of obtaining more direct bookings in mind. The aim of securing more direct reservations to disintermediate and consequently reduce the weight of those gentlemen's commissions in this oligopoly game, as I used to call it, like the OTA market is always one of the primary objectives for any hotel. However, the question that I wanted to pose today is it always worth it? In other words, does it make sense to try to secure more direct bookings at all cost at any point in time, no matter what? Not by chance, and for several years now I have stopped talking about disintermediation, especially total disintermediation, and have begun to adopt and embrace the concept of intelligent intermediation or smart intermediation. It may seem like a somewhat unappealing term to hoteliers because it clearly involves having to give up on trying to obtain more direct bookings, at least partially. And yes, that's precisely what it entails, agreeing to sacrifice a portion of direct bookings. However, there's a difference between doing so strategically versus indiscriminately. Acting strategically means understanding when to prioritize direct bookings and when to give a little leeway. Acting indiscriminately instead means recklessly challenging those OTA giants without recognizing that most of the times we have more to lose than gain. And so in today's video, I would like to address 4 main reasons, at least in my opinion, not the only ones, but perhaps some of the most important reasons why wild disintermediation at all cost doesn't always make sense. So without further ado, let's dig in. The first reason why it may not be entirely beneficial for hotels to prioritize the direct bookings over online travel agencies or the OTAs is that OTAs can provide the visibility needed, especially when it's most crucial. So consider, for example, low season periods when hotel supply essentially exceeds demand. So what do you need most? Increased visibility, right? So because more visibility offers better chances of securing bookings. Whether these reservations come directly or through the OTAs is kind of secondary, as the primary concern is filling rooms that would otherwise remain empty. And who can guarantee more visibility when it's needed the most? Of course, the OTAs. The reason behind this is that the OTAs give more prominence, of course, to hotels with better conversion rates. It's a simple business logic. Now imagine 2 hotels, for example, on booking.com, each generating, let's say, 100,000 views over a specific month. Now, Hotel A converts, say, 100 bookings, while Hotel B generates 300 bookings on booking.com. So, since booking.com earns from commissions, which hotel do you think will receive greater visibility now? Naturally, it will be Hotel B. The logic isn't a hidden logic, it's evident in Booking.com's documentation. The algorithm takes various factors into account, with one of the most important being the conversion rate. And it's perfectly logical again, Booking.com is a business like any other that wants to make the most out of their products. So the product B in this example, so Hotel B sells better than product A or Hotel A, then Hotel B gets more visibility. It's as simple as that. Therefore, if we focus on obtaining more direct during low season periods, we are kind of essentially diminishing our possibilities to get more visibility, the visibility that we so desperately need. So what is the number one goal during low season? Is to obtain more direct bookings or simply more bookings in general? And again, like I always say, there is no such thing like hitting 2 birds with 1 rock. In that example, I will argue that securing more bookings overall is the priority over direct. And if that means sacrificing a bit of profit margin for the sake of gaining greater visibility and consequently attracting more reservations in general, then so be it. The second reason one might not necessarily focus on direct bookings is that at times, the overall costs needed to boost direct bookings may not justify the risk of not getting enough volumes. Even though typically, like customer acquisition costs favor direct bookings over OTA bookings, in order to obtain direct bookings there are certain costs involved. like having and maintaining a high-performing website, appropriate marketing and advertising budget, effective campaigns, SEO optimization and conversion rate optimizations, and even the staff that needs to be paid, of course, in order to put forth all the direct booking initiatives that you might have come up with. However, the volume of bookings in low periods may be unpredictable and not high enough to cover those costs. So OTA commissions instead become kind of manageable, as they are variable expenses tied to revenue generation. In essence, no revenue means no commission fees, effectively reducing the associated risks. In certain periods, in certain contexts, and in certain situations, focusing on direct can increase the risk while decreasing overall security. And so ultimately, the goal in these periods is to maintain cost efficiencies while bearing commission fees. The third reason why it might be advantageous or at least acceptable to shift the focus from direct reservation to online travel agencies is the ability to access a more extensive and reliable market analysis and data. No hotel can generate the volume of data and the quality of data that an OTA can provide. And so while not all the OTAs share this information, some, and especially the big ones like Booking.com, offer valuable analytics and reporting. Now, Booking.com is one of the leading OTAs, of course, globally, and has an interesting analytics section that allows hotels to view market trends in a very detailed way. And if this data is examined rigorously and consistently, it can help better understand the market movements, particularly again during low season. And this is when we need to identify areas for improvement. Ultimately, with the OTAs, we gain access to more uniform data on both searches and bookings, so demand and conversions. And this wealth of information ultimately leads to better actionable insights and a superior understanding of the market compared to what we could achieve through our own direct channels. The fourth reason why it doesn't always make sense to seek more direct bookings over OTA booking relates to social proof and the long-term recognition and marketing of a brand. Now, let me briefly explain what this means. There are two social proof related situations, let's call it this way, where, in my opinion at least, it makes no sense to seek more direct bookings regardless of seasonality. And the first situation is when the hotel is brand new or recently renovated. Like, our new hotel typically lacks social proof completely, such as reviews from past customers who can attest to its quality and appeal. Like, a new hotel typically has a more desperate need for generating volumes. So lacking prior marketing, an established brand, or previous communication effort, focusing on obtaining more bookings in general takes priority over securing direct reservations. And this, of course, may seem trivial, but it's important to remember. The second situation is tied to reviews already obtained. We know that a high review score corresponds to higher conversions. As mentioned earlier, higher conversions guarantee greater visibility and more bookings. With a high review score, we essentially capture a larger share of potential demand. So in such a situation, it makes sense to focus on direct bookings. However, if our review score isn't necessarily high, we should prioritize that, improving that, before considering direct reservations. And what do I mean by a high review score? On a scale 1 to 10, like Booking.com, I would say, and I would be reaching the ideal goal of 9. I realize that achieving 9 might be difficult for some. For some properties, intrinsic factors may contribute to difficulties, such as an outdated hotel or a not so new hotel who is unable to afford, for example, renovation, or for example, when a hotel is located in a not so prominent spot. Like in these cases, these hotels can only rely on the services offered, the quality of the service offered, rather than the inherent quality of the rooms and the hotel in general. Despite these details, it is well known that, again, higher review scores lead to increased conversions, greater visibility, and ultimately more bookings, creating a sort of vicious or virtuous circle. When a hotel's score falls below 9, it misses out on being filtered by a significant portion of demand. Now, take again Booking.com. I know I mention it very often, but take again Booking.com as an example. One of its strengths lies in its let's call it search filters for selecting accommodation, and review score is among the most widely used filters, even more more than price. Typically, there are 2 preset filters that allows user to select properties with a certain score and exclude all others, 8 or higher, but also 9 or higher. And so by achieving a score of 9, hotels, you understand that hotels can access a market segment they might otherwise miss out on, making it of course an important milestone. And so I suggest that if your score is below 8.5, the priority should be to obtain more positive review, both in terms of quality and quantity. Because when you gather numerous, a very high volume of high value reviews, the occasional negative review will have a lesser impact on your overall score. And so these allow your hotel to remain strong, particularly during challenging times. Take for example the pandemic times we just went through. While it undoubtedly devastated the hospitality industry, those who rebounded more effectively and faster were hotel businesses with a solid foundation of social proof and of course high review scores. Even though demand was low, these establishments were better positioned to convert potential customers compared to their lower ranked counterparts. Now this is it. However, don't get me wrong, direct is cool. I've preached and I will keep on preaching in favor of direct bookings. However, if you think about it, the game is relatively easy to understand. We must get the most out of every dollar, euro, pound, whatever currency that we put on the table. And this sometimes, in my opinion, means being wise enough to understand and to know when it's fine to give up margins, so to give up direct in favor of volumes, or the other way around, I understand that this may quite be a challenging thought for many, so feel free to share your inputs and I'll see you again in the next video.